Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining the To Hell and Back podcast, the award-winning To Hell and Back podcast. I messed up the intro. I'm always supposed to say award-winning. Proudly sponsored by Kingfisher Fisheries, Quality Fish and Chips, and Old Zoological Bar. I had the pleasure of meeting the owner, Jimmy Chu, yesterday, and he was very nice. So thanks for sponsoring if you're listening. And, go check out Old Zoological Bar in Hull and Kingfisher Quality Fish and Chips. So, a bit of a negative episode. Your host today is Nathaniel. I'm joined by Will and Ant, the hat-trick hero, due to his likeness, the absolutely, complete resemblance to Ozan Tufan. So, negative episode last week. Lovely episode this week with a nice win with 4 goals against a Yorkshire rival, and hopefully some exciting transfers to come in midweek. So I think we should be quite excited for this one. Is that right, Will and Ant?
I would say so.
The smug face is kicking in too much at the moment.
Yeah, and because, Will, you're always very creative with your headline, do you want to read it out for the lovely listeners at home?
Yeah, because obviously there's been a lot of transfer time over Tottenham Hotspur recently. I got a phone call yesterday afternoon, and apparently Spurs are interested. They're that desperate. Yeah,
so I guess he's the one who's cursed, isn't it? It's not Spurs, because first match for Bayern Munich, and they lost the sort of equivalent of the Community Shield there, so still hasn't won a trophy.
I would say no, because it's been one game. Funny that, saying about one game not being a disaster.
Very good segue, Will. I mean, I think Ant, you were quite critical and deservedly critical. Perhaps, no, you weren't saying we're senior out, but so I guess we'll just jump straight into it. We were much better yesterday in a lovely win against Sheffield Wednesday. So what was different to the Doncaster and Norwich games for you, Will, or Ant? I meant Ant.
Well, for me, the first half, we seemed to control the game a lot better. I think Wednesday stood up for us a lot, but we didn't really create many chances. You know what I mean? We were well in control of the game, but we didn't have possession in a meaningful way. We had a couple of sighters where we had a couple of shots from range, but we didn't look like we was going to, really put them to the sword like we ended up doing. And then obviously got the sucker punch with their goal, and you're thinking, oh, here we go again, kind of thing. And without wasteful, we are in possession in the final third. You think it's going to be one of those days, but I think the penalty came at a perfect time. I think obviously scoring at that point of the game, it led to probably a bit more of a happier team talk, perhaps at half-time from Rosenior. I do think he probably still gave them both barrels anyway. And they came out the second half vastly superior, completely different. The pace at which we passed the ball, the options off the ball, the options we had in wide areas, it just improved significantly. And it showed by the fact that we created so many more chances and put 3 goals in. So, more of that second half performance throughout the season in every game. And then, we're going to be in a healthy position. So, complete contrast to the Norwich game and definite contrast to the Doncaster one where we were shocking on the ball and created nothing. It was nice to see us actually, pop 4 goals in, and it's always nice to beat them in it. So, very positive day.
Yeah, absolutely. Will, especially before the Tufan, I'm just saying accidentally now, Ozan Tufan penalty, were you fearing the worst and fearing that perhaps the reaction was also going to be really bad on social media? Because I thought the first half wasn't awful and we were just very unlucky to go in potentially at 1-0 behind. So what were your thoughts?
Performance-wise, the first and second halves went massively different. I thought we were still pretty much the same in both halves. The only difference is in the second half, the ball stuck in the box, whereas when we put it in the box in the first half, it just wouldn't land right. And I think it was also helped by the fact that I think the moment we got that, I think also was helped by the moment we got that equaliser. It felt like Wednesday were very happy with the draw and weren't going to push us anymore. And as soon as Ozan scored that belter from 30 yards, the game was completely dead. They were never coming back.
Yeah, it did feel quite similar to the Bristol City game, the first game of last year. First half, we conceded a sort of dodgy goal, perhaps against some of the run of play. The other team were happy to sit off and give us possession, but we had a fully fit Tufan this year, which we didn't have last year. That was the quality.
What it felt like was, I imagine how Norwich was feeling at half-time in their game against us, because they spent that entire half dominating, couldn't score at all. We go ahead against the run of play, and then they equalise right on half-time.
Yeah, and then of course it was an Ozan Tufan penalty that got us back into the game, and I think same as last year, we sort of needed that. I've seen a few people, a lot of Sheffield Wednesday fans say that the penalty we got wasn't justified, but it's a foul anywhere else on the pitch.
Yeah.
He's been elbowed, bleeding everywhere. So that was definitely a penalty, wasn't it?
It's a weird one because he's when you watch it in live play, it's a foul hands down. But I think when you watch the replays, he runs into his arm. But it's one of those that you see him give him, you see him do. We're quite lucky. I think it was probably less of a penalty than the other two calls we had on Coyle and was it Delap? I think
we'd be fuming if Wednesday got that penalty. Yeah,
I mean, it's one of those where, look, if how do you jump without raising your arms for one? But also you've got to watch where you put your arms. It's one of those, isn't it? Where it's down to the ref, that one. That's totally down to the referee's opinion on obviously what this Wednesday player's done or what his intent was. So, like we say, we're not going to complain. After the Norwich game, we were probably due some luck in our favour, and I think, like we say, that came at such a crucial point in the first half.
Didn't feel like we were going to get it though, because the ref I thought was pretty poor, to be honest, for the most part.
Yeah, I thought he had a really poor first half. I think he got more control on it on the second, but that's probably because we had 100% of the ball.
Yeah, so shall we linger on the controversy just a little bit longer, then get on to some more positives? Because Rossignol was very upset about the first goal. I've clipped and put it on Twitter that the ref seems to blow his whistle to stop twice in quick succession. He blows it for the free kick, and then twice again when the Wednesday player gets up. It looks like he wants to go over and talk to Greaves. So the City players stop moving, and then they go on and score. And then a bit of an unlucky deflection off McLaughlin, and it goes in. So I think that's probably 2 weeks where we can be a little bit aggrieved with the goals we've conceded from a refereeing standpoint. But again, both were mistakes, and then we just haven't reacted quick enough. Yeah, exactly. Because it was, the corner. You've still got to defend that corner at Norwich. So, again, my stepdad was very annoyed that we conceded again in the last minute. But is that too much of a worry? Because I think at that point, 4-1 up. Very
I was going to make this point. The worry is, last season defensively we were absolutely brilliant. This season we've conceded 2 in every game, and the problem with the Sheffield Wednesday one is that they had 2 shots on target, scored them both. In a game that we dominated and should have won probably 4-5-0, we've still ended up conceding 2 goals. And you got to think, if we're going to play the sides in the league like the Southamptons, your Leicesters, your Leedses that are coming up, Middlesbroughs, Coventries, we've got to be better defensively in these games. These slight lapses of concentration at the back that's allowing them. I mean, the second goal, 3 players are completely pulled out of position and 1 reverse passing behind, and he's through. It's. I know the game's won at that point.
It felt like a proper game's over goal, didn't it?
Yeah, but this is the thing. But if you're a man, if I'm Rossignol, I'm fuming. You want to,
and he was.
No matter what score it is, no matter how much you're going to go on and win the game, you've got to concentrate to the final whistle, because on another day, Wednesday do what they did in the playoffs and go on, pick the Reds up and go, just keep lumping the ball in the box, get a third. You know what I mean? You've got to see games out better. And I think defensively this season we just seem a little bit suspect at the back, and that's probably the only negative from the Wednesday game is that we've come away from that conceding 2, because that's a real sucker punch.
Rossignol wasn't happy in the post-match press conference about conceding 2 goals, because it really did flatter Wednesday.
Yeah.
If we conceded 2 but scored maybe 8, it maybe would have been more realistic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would love to score 8. Nshep says that you should remember that we've had different centre-back pairings each game. And hopefully it's not like last year where it took us ages to get our or it was a second clean sheet. We had one against Preston and then not for ages and ages. So hopefully once we do get that first one, we can go on a better run like we did last year. But so I guess, a very good win, but there are some negatives. And well, shall we just talk about how good Ozan Tufan is? He's first career hat trick. Yeah. 3 wonderful, really quality finishes, and that's what you really need from a midfielder, and a player of his caliber, is to show those moments of quality when you really need it. The second goal in particular was lovely, because I don't think he scored a goal like that for City yet. He's tried it an awful lot, so nice that he finally got one.
He's had a couple of shots from the outer box where it's kind of deflected him, but we've not had. I don't think we've had a clean strike that's fallen into the top bin like that.
Mm. Yeah. So
I think from memory. Maybe Coyle against Fleetwood. Maybe he was the last one. Oh no, Greg Doherty at Blackpool.
Yeah, Doherty at Blackpool had one, but we don't really often score very good goals. So delighted that he got that, and hopefully he carries on to have a fantastic season after that.
If you go back and watch that goal, the actual whole build-up to the goal is great as well, because City passed the ball around the pitch quite a bit before it goes to Tufan. So it's a good example of how the philosophy of is working against some teams.
Yeah, I think that was.
It's important to note that I think the difference in this game was, and obviously we're all very excited about the signing of Vinagre and what he can offer us when he's fully fit. But Jacob Greaves being in that back four for me was the difference, because when we've got Vinagre in the side and we're trying to play this possession style in the 4-4-2, the fluidity in the system is lost, because obviously he's not match fit. He's learning a new system, learning new players. And when he pushes up the pitch, he doesn't sit back like Greavesy does and offer that back three. Now, when Greavesy plays as left back, we essentially in possession become like a 3-4-1-2, whatever it was, 3-4-2-1.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, he sits back alongside Maka and Jones, and it allows us to create those triangles from centre half to midfield to attack, which is something we didn't have against Norwich or Doncaster, which is why the ball was sticking at Ingram or the defence and going straight back to him. Greaves' inclusion in that team just gives us so much fluidity, and I think at left back that was probably Greaves' I think best game for us hands down. And
left back, yeah.
But both him and Coyle were absolutely fantastic, and Coyle
was my man
as a right winger. Yeah, he was. I think that was probably Coyle's best game for us as well. I mean, it was just both the fullbacks and Lakilo as well offering the width. I just thought it was in an attacking sense, we actually had options, which is something we couldn't say. Definitely not against Doncaster, and perhaps not as much at Norwich either. But
Traore showed up as well after a couple of iffy games as well. Was that good?
Yeah, but I think the thing was with the Traore is we played him out wide, and he's not a winger, so we know how good he can be in the middle. And obviously, he's been playing sort of as a right midfielder, hasn't he? And when we had the ball, like we said, when we dropped to like a 3-4-2-1, it allowed him to drop narrow, sort of alongside Tufan and just behind the lap. And because he was more narrow and he was cutting in, it was allowing Coyle to bomb on into that empty space on the overload, and then the Kilo to offer width on the other side. And we had abundance of options in the middle. And we know how good Traore, Tufan, Seri and Slater can be. And when you put them four in close vicinity in the middle, it leads to those quick first touch passes, little bits of interchanges, and then gets it out wide. And that's the difference from the Sheffield Wednesday game to obviously from the Doncaster one for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what I'd sort of contribute to that is that it seemed like a bit of an asymmetrical system, because, as you said, Coyle was so far up, whereas Greaves was a left back, but he was nowhere near as high on the left side as Coyle was. Yeah, and that's how we got our defensive solidity last year, because we didn't have Fleming, we had Greaves, so it was that sort of fluid system, and I think it worked a whole lot better. And it's a shame, because Vinagre, he seems like he could be a really good attacking player. But if it's better for the system to have Greaves at left back, even if that's not his best position, you really do want him and McLaughlin and Jones on the pitch at the same time, don't you? And if maybe it is sort of a 3-5-2, if you like, but also
you've got the potential. You've got the potential with Vinagre to play the position that Lakilo was playing on the left hand side above Greaves if you wanted to. And then you can play Lakilo on the other side instead of Traore, which gives you two, very tricky wingers on either side. So Rosini will know his plan for Vinagre, and I don't think he's match fit. I don't know if he's injured. I don't remember seeing anything about it, because I thought maybe he's put Greaves in tactically because Wednesday were a massive.
It wasn't on the bench, so I think he was injured.
him and Vaughan both missed because they picked up little knocks last week.
Yeah. I think he just probably could have included him, but didn't, on the basis that Wednesday were just a giant team and Greavesy being at the back made more sense for the aerial presence as well as. But, it's helped us see sort of what Greavesy can give us in the system in that position.
Daniel Rose has said here that Slater was his second best player, but, I mean, you could have had Tufan, you could have had Greaves, Slater, maybe even Traore or Lokilo. There were lots of players who performed really well. I think Lokilo's put in 2 pretty good performances so far, and I was just thinking earlier, especially if we do sign Scott Twine and maybe another winger, which might happen this week, surely at least 2 forward players are going to leave, because we've got so many players, and it could be another thing like last year where perhaps it's going to be difficult to keep them all happy and give them game time, because Lokilo's done pretty well, but Vaughan, Aliar, Cynic, Longman, and then maybe 2 more signings.
I think you know the answer to that one. I think Longman's on his way.
Well, precisely, but him and someone else has got to go, I think, just for the space in the team, because there's going to be at least 1 or 2 wingers every week that aren't even in the squad, even though there's 9 substitutes now rather than 7 on the bench. So I'm sure we will be seeing a few leave. But Lokilo looked pretty sharp, perhaps not a huge amount of end product, but every time he was on the ball, I thought like a proper winger should have a bit of creativity, and perhaps something's going to happen. So, I think with Delap and Lokilo so far, they both look like pretty good signings. But I'll keep talking about the hat-trick hero for a little bit, just how important is a fully fit Tufan playing at the best of his ability, perhaps a whole year.
If you think back to the seasons where we've done well or won promotion, something like that, the sides that do that, you've got to have goals all over the pitch. It can't just be you can't just rely on one player, you striker. Goals has to come from all over. And Tufan, what did he get, 9-10 goals last season? Like we say, he wasn't even fully fit. And most of his appearances, I think, actually came off the bench. I think he made 20 odd appearances off the bench. So if you've got a fully fit Tufan, he's getting you 10, 15 goals a season. All that means then is one of your strikers has to do their job and also get similar. And you're in the top half. 2 players getting you that amount of goals, and then, your usual 5-6s from other players like Slater will probably get goals, and then you've got players like, defenders that'll pop up, Greavesy that'll get them. You've got to have goals all over the pitch, and Tufan in this kind of form, considering he's already on 3 with 2 games in the season, suggests he might have a better season than last year. And like you say, he offers more. And Rosini said this, I think, in his interview, where it's not even just in an attacking sense. His work off the ball as well is so much better. And I think he said in his interview that Tufan came to him after scoring his second goal and said, I'm tired, I want to come off. And Rossi said, no, stay on and you'll score again. And he did. And then obviously subbed him off afterwards. But that just means, that shows you that he's putting in the work so much to the point that he's actually asking the manager to come off because he's worn out. But that's what you want to see as a fan. You want to see players running themselves into the ground for the cause. And Tufan's loved it, and I think he sort of wants to reciprocate that to the fans by giving his all every week.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, and the fact he's putting in that amount of effort coming back and helping the midfield when he's sort of playing as a second striker, I think shows that as well. Dan Gosling will be absolutely fuming.
Just to the how he sat somewhere seething.
Tufan's probably going to score more than Dan Gosling's going to play this year. I'd fully back him to get double figures, and I don't know who it was.
Got a club? I'm sure he was released by Watford. I can't remember if
he's played like 10 games in the last 2 years. I think he's pretty much done now.
Last week I said Tufan will get either double figures in goals or assists, or maybe, but he'll get at least double figures in one, and I'm feeling pretty confident suddenly about that.
Oh yeah, he just has to scrape last year's total on top of a hat-trick already, and I think he's going to get a whole lot more, especially in that sort of second striker role. But I mean, if we do have all these extra players, I know we were saying it last year and then they all got injured, but really you just perhaps we don't need one player to score like 20 goals. We just need them to sort of contribute for the whole team. And I think you could look at a Slater, a Delap, Oscar, and they can all get 5 at least.
Well, I said in the stand, didn't I, when we was 3-1 up and Rosinio was making his subs and he brought on Estepinian and Connolly, and I turned around and said, how ruthless is that we're dominating the game to the point that we're 3-1 up and he's still chucking strikers on the pitch.
He wants to make a statement, wouldn't
Yeah, and this is the thing. He's seen it as a chance. Oscar, get yourself on there, get a goal. Connolly, get on there, get yourself a goal. It's like, he's giving them opportunity. And the thing is what we didn't have last season was players to come on like that can still offer us goal threat. And like Connolly, like we said, he comes on, gets a goal. And last season, we barely had a striker to play anyway. And now we've got, we can rotate four of them. So it's if they can all stay fit, I'm pretty sure that we'll get the goal total that was missing last season, because, like we say, it was just the fitness issues last season was the real problem. But this season, we've got an abundance of attacking options, and with the signings yet to come in, it could get even better. So yeah, it's one of those where we've got to hope that it sort of all settles quite quickly and everyone gets fully fit, because like Connolly and Oscar, I think, are still trying to get minutes in to get fully fit, and Oscar got 13 last season, so a fully fit Oscar as well to add to the mix. It's the possibility for our goal scoring issues ending's quite high.
I think the fact that Oscar scores in bunches as well perhaps might not be as big an issue, because if he does come on, score a few in 2 and 3 games, but can't do that consistently, we do now have the other players.
And they're all off the mark. Delat scored, Oscar scored, Connolly scored, and Tufan scored. So
they're the 3 strikers, and then Tufan's been playing up there as well. So that's 4 strikers basically who have got at least 1 goal this season, and that's incredibly important. We always say when you bring in a new striker, you want them to score early on, and that's 5 goals between them already. Might be nice for a player in another position to score pretty soon, but if you've got 4 strikers scoring lots, then that's a recipe for success. And then Connolly came on, easy goal. I mean, I think even my beloved Ryan Longman couldn't have messed that up, although he did in one of the pre-season games. So
was very simple.
Yeah, and Shep says if he stays fit, Connolly could get 10 to 15, and absolutely, I think we've got a few players. We've got a lot of players that could do that easily. I mean, Traore or Twine. Twine could score about 10 free kicks if we do get him.
That's going to be his most vital thing when he comes in.
And that's our most vital thing. I said to you at the game, didn't I, Nathaniel, that we've just got no set piece takers. I don't think there's no player. Traore looks good at free kicks, but there's no real player that you think when we get a free kick on the edge of the box that this could be a goal. No. Like we don't seem to have one of those.
Not since Snodgrass.
No, not since Snoddy, and it's even just putting the ball in the box as well, like from corners and putting the ball in from a free kick. The quality of delivery is just not there either. Set pieces, we just don't seem to be there at all, and it leads to us going short, and then it just gets wasted. So I think your extra goals that come from set pieces, someone like Twine can actually put that total up, and that those extra goals that you get from them can put you in a far better position than what you probably expected to be in. Can be the difference between mid-table and playoffs, for example.
Yeah, I think his corners yesterday were pretty decent. I think he's probably the best set piece taker we have at the moment. But we probably had about 9. I mean, we had Woods and Pelkas, and maybe Elder took some, and everyone took them.
Until he left.
Yeah, but he wasn't really. We didn't have a preferred taker. Even series aren't that great. So I think having Twine, if we keep mentioning him, but hopefully that does go through, or I'll look very silly.
It's not signed yet.
Don't worry, Nathaniel. Don't worry.
Yeah, so plenty of positives to take out of the performance, and nice to get one over on Sheffield Wednesday again. That's the first time we've beaten them 4 times in a row, apparently. So we're sort of their bogey team now. So
we've beaten them 11 times in the last 20 games. So.
Yeah, very good. And of course, one at Wembley.
Always nice to beat them 4-2 as well. From what I remember last time, we beat them 4-2.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Yeah. So I've mentioned him a lot, but shall we talk about the main transfer news that we're expecting this week? Sort of a bit of a Fraser Campbell-like, or maybe Ashley Fletcher, the striker from Middlesbrough we always wanted to sign. A bit of a sort of transfer saga from last year. We looked like we were going to sign Scott Twine on a permanent deal for about 3 million from MK Dons last summer. Then Burnley came in, and he went to Burnley, and that worked out very well for him. He got promoted. But now that they're in the Premier League, we might be getting him on loan. So that could be confirmed, I think, Tuesday, Wednesday. Very good young player. Do we think that's going to be, because I think last week, wingers are a problem position. He'll go straight into the starting 11, right?
Possibly. I mean, I won't worry about it possibly happening. It's happening.
Yeah, you should do.
So don't worry about I would put him straight in the side 11 probably.
Mm-hmm. What
I
about
don't
you?
know before.
I was going to say who you dropping.
Well, I mean, I drop Traore and put Twine on the wing. But the thing is, in a long season with 5 substitutes, if we're going to have these options, they're all going to have a decent amount of minutes. It doesn't really matter about who you're dropping it for, because there will definitely be opportunities from fitness and the amount of games you play for everyone to play. Here is a quote from the Turfcast Burnley podcast about Scott Twine. He's a seriously good footballer. Got raw talent to go a long way, a bit lightweight and gets knocked off the ball a bit easily, and perhaps slow decision making. But his dead ball skill, as we mentioned, can get you a winner when you need it. And he thinks it's very helpful for him to go out on loan to get some important game time. So thanks to Turfcast for giving a bit of insight to Scott Twine. Just a loan deal, Tom mentioned. He doesn't really, or he called us Loan FC, but loans, especially with a player that perhaps was injured a fair bit last year, like many signings we've made, it's a risk worth taking, right, on loan?
Loans, absolutely.
Yeah. And I guess
the thing is with loans, usually loans come with a loan fee nowadays, but you're not paying millions to bring a player in, and like you say, you're not burdened with them next season through the contract if they aren't up to standard or have been injured for the majority of the time. And the thing is, if he does get a long-term injury, you can send him back anyway usually. So yeah, it's low risk. I'm happy for it. The Connolly 1-year deal is a bit bizarre. I mean, it's one of those where it's
Connolly asked for that.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably given himself a shorter time to obviously think, but with the loans, like you say, it's a gamble, isn't it? It ends up like Ebuwe, where he's like, this isn't my club anyway, I don't care, and goes back, or you end up getting somebody like Fred Campbell who gets you 15 goals and promoted to the Premier League. So it's that it's hit and miss. Usually young players with points to prove, but like we say, low risk.
I think Twine's different on that because last summer he did come to the training ground. He pretty much agreed to join the club. But MK Dons didn't really want to sell us him. They wanted to sell him to Burnley because they offered more money.
You see, I thought about this. I think that he didn't want to sign for Avaladze.
No, he didn't want to sign.
He spoke to Avaladze and didn't have faith in him as a manager. We've listened to him in interviews, and he wasn't really that motivational, was he? I think he didn't really want to. If you're meeting with Vincent Kompany or Shota Avaladze, I know what I'm signing for. But now, obviously, with Premier League time, then Kompany will have said to him, look, your minutes aren't going to be guaranteed this season. And we've got Liam Rosenior, because the thing that makes me think about that was the quotes from, I can't remember if it was Baz or whoever else first reported it, that he really wants to come now.
Yeah,
really wants to come now.
He wanted to come then as well.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
But I think he probably wants to play for Rossi.
He wanted to come back last summer, but it was more a case of MK Dons didn't want to sell us him because they were going to get more from Burnley, so they didn't really want to accept our deal. They wanted to accept Burnley's deal instead.
I think all the comments from Rosenior that he said about and Adjan that we're going to sign a young talent that we tried to get last year, I think we were all pretty confident that it could well be Scott Twine, especially.
But apparently it's not Twine, is it?
No, it's someone different. I think there.
Oh, so we're signing another good player.
Yeah,
That'd be nice.
I think they're on about Raksaki.
No, they're not. They're on about someone else.
Yeah.
They're on about someone else completely different who no one has said yet.
Yeah,
They are on about someone I can't say. They're on about someone who, if we bring him in, it's going to cost a few quid, and it's unlikely that we'll bring in someone like Max Baird as well. It's going to be like one or the other. It's not Barkley. He's just gone to Luton, you silly sod.
Getting on loan from Luton?
It's a highly rated player. I can't tell you who it is.
Oh, so you know and you can't tell us?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah, I always thought it was Cole Palmer, but after seeing how he's sort of included in Man City's side at the minute, I don't think so.
Yeah.
If we do get this lad, it will be a very good signing. But it's one of those where if the FFP is a thing that's genuinely an issue, it's going to be interesting because it's going to be someone where if we bring him in, we're not going to bring in someone like Max Baird, who have been highly rated and looking at. So it'll be interesting if it does happen.
Enchip's asking what position will, but this is the highly rated young winger we've been. And is this the English talent that we've been talked about?
He's English, yes.
Yeah, I think that the second.
He's not Raksaki. He's been.
Yeah, the second Cole Palmer cut inside and scored a worldie against Arsenal in the Community Shield. I think it was pretty
the
sure we
second
weren't going to get him.
Mahrez. It was out the question.
Yes, indeed. Well, that's very exciting. It feels like last year where we're trying to sign every single young winger there is possible to get. And I do think maybe the financial fair play, if we sell Cynic as I expect and maybe Aliar.
I'd send Aliar back to Turkey on loan. I think he needs a loan somewhere familiar to find his feet again.
It is funny how we mentioned him and he wasn't in the team sheet at all. When you think about it, it's not Ollie Green was on the bench, but it would have been nice to see him, to be honest, when we were 4-1 up. But
yeah, can we all agree that Cynic's played his last game for City? Surely,
I can't see him playing.
He's not had a pre-season for 2 years now.
It's bizarre that we've given him a squad number, really.
Yeah, Ryan Woods hasn't got a squad number.
I think he's got a squad number just in case any of these signings don't happen.
Yeah, I suppose, but
do you really want to be trying to incorporate someone into the side when he's barely played for us?
No, for 2 years, and
you might as well kept Jarvis.
Well, then you could say that for a new signing, couldn't you?
Well, you could, but we've seen.
When you bring him to the side when he's barely played for us.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
But I guess Cynic's proven that he can't.
I will say though,
really
as well,
do it, maybe
to make you feel better, Nathaniel, Longman isn't off for Turkey.
Yes, indeed, he isn't going to Karagümrük, so that is excellent. But I just think that's probably because he wants to go on loan to a club in England.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and I think he needs that. Aliar probably needs that somewhere. Cynic probably needs it, because we can't have these young players. And the longer we hold on to Aliar and Cynic and they keep getting injured or don't play, the 3 million each we spent on them will sort of deteriorate and we won't be able to get the same amount of money. So if we sell them or loan them out, or perhaps even be able to sell them for the same amount. Or
wait a minute, is this young talent Keane Lewis Potter maybe?
Well, you can't say. Surely you can't say who it's not, because then I will name it.
I can't say who it's not.
I bet he's available on loan this season. I've cracked it.
He surely is available on loan.
Return of KLP.
I wouldn't mind that.
The Hull and Back exclusive.
Yeah, but yeah, we can't. I could just make a list of every young English winger, and there aren't that many that are kind of good. So that would be easy to find out.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed actually looking back at. You said Dele Alli and Ross Barkley, and it's a young English winger, and they're both now like 50.
Yeah.
Lewis Potter? Is it Lewis Potter?
It's not Lewis Potter.
He wouldn't tell us if it was anyway.
I wouldn't tell you if it was anyway, yeah. I can't tell you. I'll lose my source.
It's Keno, 100%.
Yeah,
He wasn't involved in Brentford squads.
Yeah, Vinny in the comments doesn't believe you.
That don't mean out, because Raksaki was involved in Palace's squad during the weekend, but he's still getting heavily linked.
They're putting him in the shop window.
On the bench, I guess. Yeah. Well, he's there, isn't he? He's there. Last little comment about Scott Twine. I did a bit of research about how many free kicks he scores. So James Ward-Prowse in his entire career has scored, I think, 19 free kicks and averages 1 per 21 games, whereas Scott Twine averages 1 every 15 games in his entire career, and he averages them even more since he started playing in the top 4 leagues, because I think he was in Ireland for a bit.
We've got the new Juninho, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, we've got the younger...
The new Andy Dawson.
New Andy Dawson, exactly. So, because it really does help. Because
Juninho.
It's the same with getting a penalty or a corner, or just a scrappy goal. You might not earn a free kick, but if THAB, he's been winning a few free kicks. So if he can get on the edge of the box, hold the ball up, get a foul, and Twine can put it in, that'd be excellent. So that's something to look out for.
Because we have a lot of players that can win fouls. Look at Traore, Tufan. Lakivo looks like he's going to be that kind of player.
We got a lot of decent positions yesterday.
They buy fouls in good places, and we just have nobody to benefit that at the minute. So yeah, someone like Twine could probably get us an extra 5-10 goals a season in on the edge of the box with a free kick.
Yeah, we've got another comment. Pretty sure Lewis Potter would come back to City if we put
I'm
in an
telling
offer.
you, we cracked it. It's Keno. Everyone
Perhaps we have.
Keno,
we have.
Coming back.
Believe what you want.
Now that you've
try this reverse
said
psychology now.
Now that I know it's someone other than Twine or Raksaki, I am going to spend the whole evening trying to work out who else it could be. Yeah, so very exciting, and hopefully we'll have a bit more attacking power going into the game at Blackburn. It was 0-0 last year, and I don't think we've scored there for a few years, so it's a bit of a bogey ground for us, perhaps. But how are we thinking about the Blackburn game? Because we really do need another positive result to show that the Sheffield Wednesday game wasn't just a fluke.
A big opportunity.
Blackburn
are not the side that they were. The last couple of seasons, they've lost a lot of key players.
Oh, no, Diaz.
Could you say there are shambles?
You could say there were shambles, although he's not there anymore. So
I know it is.
They are unbeaten. They are unbeaten.
He's gone to another championship club.
Down against Rotherham.
Did he?
To another championship club. I can't remember where it's
Did you say Rotherham?
Nah,
but I said the Blackburn played Rotherham this weekend and they came from 2-0 down.
Oh, yeah, Sammy Schmodek's a player I rate. He scored 2. Well, you talk amongst yourselves, and I'm going to find out where Bradley Dack's gone.
He's gone to Sunderland.
Oh, Sunderland. Yeah, very Sunderland.
I could have found that out.
So
it is a very Sunderland signing, sort of kind of player who's passed it. Used to be good. Like Aidan McGeady, I think.
Sunderland are managed by Tony Mowbray, who I think brought him to Blackburn.
Yes.
I think
yes.
He definitely managed him at Blackburn anyway.
But Blackburn have also lost the fake Chilean, so they've lost his goals. They don't like the last couple of seasons. They've been top 6 contenders, but this season they look more like they're going to be bottom half of the league. So it's a big chance for us to overturn the Ewood Park hoodoo, and like we said, continue this momentum from the Wednesday game, and hopefully go there and have 2 positive results in a row, and obviously get that feel good factor back going, and hopefully it clicks like it did, and a couple of new signings to add into the mix too.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, I think we're both, or all 3 of us, are very more sort of optimistic about the season rather than last week.
I mean, Blackburn won the opening game against West Brom, didn't they? And they drew from 2-0 down against Rotherham. I think it'll be a trickier game, but I don't think it'll be.
There's a 10-man Rotherham.
It was Norwich. They still came back.
And Rotherham,
as Hull City have proven, our opponents going down to 10 men does not mean we're going to score.
No, true.
It means we're less likely to score. Even when we were playing against 9 men all those years ago with Bruce against Sunderland, they very almost got a point. Was it Harper? Had to make a great save.
Brucey wasn't the most attacking of managers, though, let's be honest.
No. Grind out a 1-0 win against 9 men. Horrendous. Another comment. Will, is Delap 16-1 to replace Kane at Spurs?
No, I am. They're that desperate.
Oh, yeah. I'll mention it again. I mentioned it before the podcast. Delap played very well against Norwich. Didn't really get involved a huge amount against Sheffield Wednesday from how I felt. Did okay. But do we think it's still going to be the same sort of thing where the strikers aren't getting involved with the system as much as last year?
I think he had an all right game. It's just because he didn't score. People looking on it. The thing what Delap offers us is his hold-up ability, which is something we missed in a long time. I think what he's really good at, and what I really like watching about him, is when the ball goes up in the air in the box, he takes it down so well, and he invites a player to foul him because he has him on his back, and he's trying to he plucks the ball out the air with his feet, and his close ball control is amazing. And his link-up play with those around him is really good. So obviously he didn't have the chances to score goals as much against Wednesday because they kind of marked him out the game. But it gave space for Coyle, Lakilo, Greavesy, and all them to hurt him out wide. So that one tactical decision they made to try and mark Delap out the game, let other players flourish in that sense, and we still ended up scoring anyway. So it's good that we've got that mixture in the squad. But what Delap gives us is they have to sort him out. Like we say, they've either got to mark him, or he's going to be more of a threat. And if they do mark him out of the game, it's going to give somebody else who's equally as good the opportunity and more space to do some damage.
Ozan Tufan?
Yeah, exactly. So it allows Tufan to drop into that space between the midfield and the back 4 and do what he does best and pop the ball in the back of the net from the edge of the box.
Very good. Well, if we do want to go into sort of the Blackburn game and the predictions, well, one last thing before that. Will, I haven't actually prepared a combined lineup for this week. It's a bit too early in the week for that. But you said that I should not have put 5 Sheffield Wednesday players in the lineup because we battered them. So I guess just pretend in your head that I've made a lineup and you can complain about it. But after, what I can say is that Ozan Tufan would definitely be in the lineup. I can tell you
definite
that.
inclusions would have to be Tufan, Coyle, Greaves, Slater,
Ingram, McLaughlin, Seri.
Tufan versus Smodics there for that all-important attacking midfield role.
Well,
Tufan's got 3.
This past week as well.
I'm pretty sure I could find a system that has 2 attacking, midfield players. I'm sure there's a way to fit Schmodics and Tufan in the lineup. I'll make that and I'll put it in my blog later in the week. So I guess one other thing, Will and myself are the only people in the To Hand Back Prediction League to actually score a point. We're well out in front with 1 point each. And Tom, opposition guests United. And AD is 0. Well, you were the closest to the actual result. You said 3-0, of course.
Predicting 3-0, sometimes slightly get success.
Well, of course, I predicted 2-1 or 1-0, wasn't it?
1-0, you said.
Got the same amount of points as you, Will. So it shows it doesn't really make any difference.
Slightly gives them success.
It's the winner is going to be made by who gets a couple of correct scores.
Yeah.
And gets them 5 points out in front.
It's a long season. I'm not going to predict any actual scores that have more than 3 goals because you don't want to we're not going to win 6-0 potentially. It's too big of a risk. So I think 1-1 every week.
It should have been 6-0 against Wednesday.
Probably should have been. They almost scored an own goal very near at the end. Went into the side netting. Had a good view of that. So Blackburn, shall we just get on to it? What are our score predictions for what will, like every game, be a tough away fixture in the Championship? I'll go to you first. Will, get your stupid 3-0 out of the way.
It's not stupid when he gets you top of the predictions league, but
joint top. Will.
Yeah, exactly. That means I'm still top. 3-0.
3-0. Wow. Who's going to score? Tufan hat-trick again?
No, it's going to be... tricky, actually. Connolly, Delap, and Slater.
Yeah, nice sort of spread of goals there. I think, has AD said and Tom, have they both gone for 1-1?
Yeah.
Very dull. Extremely dull, but you'll see in a moment.
I'll take a point. Draw your away games and your home games.
Yeah. Ant, your prediction?
I'm going to go for 1-0 City.
Oh, that's positive. Who's going to score, Ant? You again?
Delap.
I don't think that's too unreasonable. Ian Templeman's gone for a very exciting Desmond 2-2 draw. I mean, I was complaining about Tom and AD going for the sort of standard Vicini result of 1-1, but I was thinking I'm probably going to predict 1-1 as well, and then that's hedging my bets.
I disagree there. This season, with Rossini being in, the standard Rossini score hasn't been 1-1, it's been 0-0.
I guess it's 0-0 away and 1-1 at home, isn't it? So maybe I'll...
Going off us this season, 0-0 seems quite far away.
Yeah, Blackburn have scored, so I'll go 1-1.
We scored 5, conceded 4 in 2 league games.
Seems pretty exciting to me.
More than
that's the excitement Adjun wanted.
Yeah. I think perhaps other than maybe the Swansea game that started Arveladze's time, I guess we had 4-4 against Sunderland, but that game, especially at home, was probably the only time we played exciting attacking football, isn't it?
We beat QPR 3-0 as well under Rossini. That was quite. There was a couple of games in a row. I think it was then when QPR we beat them both. QPR and
Cardiff away, didn't we?
Yeah, and then we beat Blackpool. Was it 4-2 as well? Can't remember now.
4-2 Rotherham, 4-1 at Wigan. Yeah.
So we can score plenty.
We can score plenty.
Occasionally.
Occasionally. Well, I don't think we're going to score lots, and it'll be a bit of a tough game. I don't think either team's really capable of keeping a clean sheet, so I'll go 1-1.
That first season under Bruce, we were the lowest scorers in the top half of the table, and we finished second.
Well, Huddersfield, they got promoted with a minus goal difference once, didn't they?
So Huddersfield, yes. They didn't win a game in the playoffs. They just went through on penalties all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a victory.
A few more 2-1s in chat. Well, I think, is that everything we want to mention for this week?
I think it is. We've done 2 episodes quite quickly, haven't we? So it's quite condensed.
Churning out that content. Football Content Awards nominations, is that a week or 2?
They do.
Open soon.
I think it's like a week now, maybe.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely be putting that on all the socials. So if you've enjoyed this episode, do remember to vote in that very soon. Thanks for liking and subscribing to the newsletter. Or do we not have that yet? We're having difficulties with the blog still.
The website still, we're trying to gain control of it properly so that we can get regular. Because at the moment we have to submit our pieces to the website creator to then upload it, which means that it can take a little bit of time to do so. But if we can get control of the website, it means that we can upload when we want, which means that we can actually get that them written content out on a regular basis, like what was intended. So just keep your eye out on the website for that. I'm pretty sure it'll be done within the next week or so. We're just sorting out the final bits. So, and then obviously there was the free fish and chips on Saturday. So for the 10 people that went around to Kingfisher and got them, well done, because it was far too late in the day when we got there to do that. Anything like that, I think. Quite gutted, really. But anyone that got them, give us a shout if you're listening and you were one of them. That'd be good. But other than that, no, I think we've covered pretty much everything, haven't we?
Wonderful. Well, remember to like and subscribe, up the Tigers, and we'll see you next week.